I never expected to watch the man I loved drop to one knee and propose to another woman in front of hundreds of cheering people. That exact moment shattered my 14-year marriage on a cold winter morning. Standing in the glass lobby of Apex Grid Systems with a useless bouquet of roses, I realized the life I built was completely gone. Instead of causing a massive public scene, I quietly turned around and walked out to my car. Within minutes, I canceled our luxury flight to France and initiated a total freeze on every joint bank account. Then I contacted the family attorney to pull my 83% ownership stake from the firm, effectively pulling $500 million out of their hands. Now I stood alone in the dark hallway of my home in Greenwich, listening to my phone buzz repeatedly. The expensive flowers sat on the kitchen counter, wrapped in thick paper and tied with silk ribbon. I had spent the morning writing a heartfelt card, remembering how we started this journey with nothing but a shared dream in a tiny rented office. When I arrived at the headquarters earlier that day, the entire building was filled with balloons and live music. I assumed the celebration was a generic office party until I saw the main stage. There stood my husband, Vance, looking incredibly polished beside the brilliant new chief executive officer, Vivienne. The crowd roared as he slipped a diamond ring onto her finger and kissed her deeply. The sheer pain of that sight made my hands shake as our eyes locked across the crowded room. Vance froze, his face losing all color, yet he did not move toward me or say a single word. Vivienne noticed his reaction and looked at me with polite confusion, clearly having no idea who I was. That was when I knew he had completely erased my existence from his career. Back in the present moment, the loud doorbell rang again, breaking the silence of the empty house. Vance was outside on the porch, begging me through the wood to open the door so he could explain. I looked down at the incoming call on my screen, seeing the old picture of him smiling from years ago before wealth transformed him into a stranger. I opened the front door just a few inches, staring at his disheveled hair and crooked necktie. Vance claimed that the entire event was just a misunderstanding and did not mean what it looked like. I looked at him calmly and asked what exactly an office engagement party was supposed to mean. He opened his mouth to reply, but his own phone started ringing relentlessly. The sudden panic on his face was obvious as he stared at the flashing screen of his phone. The board of directors had just discovered the massive financial freeze that my lawyer, Arthur, had initiated. Vance desperately told me that pulling the capital would ruin the reputation of the company and destroy important corporate acquisitions. I simply reminded him that he had signed the legal clauses himself. During our tense conversation on the porch, Vance admitted a shocking truth about his relationship with Vivienne. He had actually convinced the young executive that we were separated for over 2 years. The sheer cruelty of his deception made me feel incredibly cold, knowing he had slept in my bed every single night while maintaining a massive lie to his coworker. Later that evening, I joined an urgent video conference with the panicking board members while sitting at my kitchen table. Vance sat in his high-rise executive suite, looking exhausted and cornered as the chairman asked about the ownership. I confirmed that the holding company of my father still held the absolute majority share. The entire room fell silent as they realized who actually held the power. Because of the hidden personal relationships and major corporate risks, the board voted to place Vance on immediate administrative leave. The corporate rumors traveled through the office within minutes, and security deactivated his digital building access badges before the night ended. The proud founder who had spent years chasing the spotlight was suddenly barred from entering his own creation. The following afternoon, Vivienne called my personal phone, her voice sounding completely broken and stripped of its usual confidence. She confirmed that Vance had shown her a fake apartment lease to prove his single status. I realized that my husband had built a detailed secondary life made of falsified records just to sustain a betrayal. We were both victims of the exact same master manipulator. The situation grew even darker when Arthur called me into the legal office to view some newly discovered documents. Forensic experts had been reviewing corporate authorizations from the past 5 years and found a terrifying pattern. My signature had been expertly copied onto multiple high-level financial approvals. Vance had not just been unfaithful to our marriage, he had been committing corporate fraud. During the final emergency meeting, the forensic investigators presented the metadata and falsified signatures to the entire board. Vance tried to argue that the actions were within his operational authority, but the evidence was undeniable. The board voted unanimously to terminate him for cause, revoking his entire equity package and preparing a full criminal referral for the authorities. He had officially lost absolutely everything. A few days later, Vivienne and I met at a quiet coffee shop far away from the corporate cameras. She apologized sincerely, showing deep humiliation as she sat there without her diamond ring. I told her that I would not punish her for actions that he committed alone. We parted ways as two women who had finally stepped out of a toxic shadow. The restructuring of the company began immediately, and I stepped in to guide the transition as the primary shareholder. Vance signed a final legal settlement to avoid immediate imprisonment, leaving him entirely broke and forgotten by the business world. The grand empire he claimed to own was returned to the person who actually funded and designed it from the very beginning. Now I am sitting at the airport terminal, holding a single ticket for a flight across the Atlantic Ocean. There are no flowers or emotional cards in my bag, only a true sense of freedom and independence. This painful journey taught me that loyalty cannot be managed by contracts, and sometimes losing a marriage is the only way to find yourself.